Before the noise begins, before messages appear, before you step out into the world, you are given a moment. That moment belongs to you. How you use it can define the direction of your entire day. The Stoics understood this. They trained themselves to meet the day with clarity and discipline. Marcus Aurelius opened his mornings by reminding himself that challenges were coming. He did not hope for ease. He prepared for reality. This preparation was not reactive. It was proactive. It was a mental rehearsal that sharpened focus. It was a way of aligning the mind with principle before distraction could interfere. Your first thoughts shape the tone of the hours that follow. The choices you make now build the foundation for everything that comes after. This video is your morning preparation. Each chapter is a tool. Each sentence is a guide. The purpose is not motivation. The purpose is alignment. These are reminders. They are not meant to excite. They are meant to ground you in truth, to center your mind in discipline, to sharpen your vision, to help you live today with clarity. Start your day with thought. Lead your day with principle. Chapter 1. Prepare the mind before the world enters. A Stoic prepares the mind before facing the world. This is not a luxury, it is a requirement. If you do not choose your direction, the world will choose it for you. Messages, news, moods, demands, they will dictate your mindset unless you set the tone first. This is why morning silence is essential. Before conversation, before noise, give yourself stillness. Reflect on what matters. Ask the questions. What do I stand for? What kind of behavior do I want to practice today? What principles will I defend no matter the pressure? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This line is a direct call to awareness. It is a tool to reset your attention. It reminds you that life is not something owed to you. It is something granted. When this idea is brought to mind first thing in the morning, it shifts how you view the day ahead. You begin the day with a sense of duty, not complaint. You start with perspective, not impulse. You remember that being conscious is already a form of opportunity. When you recognize the privilege of being alive, it reduces entitlement. You become more present in your actions. You stop assuming that you will always have another chance to do things right. This awareness brings a sense of care into how you treat people. It influences how you manage your time, how you speak, how you respond to frustration, and how you handle uncertainty. Each of those things becomes a matter of choice, not accident. This mindset does not require long meditation. It requires one moment of stillness. Before the phone is picked up, before schedules and tasks demand your focus, take a breath. Pay attention to it. Feel the control you have in that single act. Let that breath bring your thoughts into alignment with reality. Stand with awareness. Lift your posture with intention. Feel the weight of your own body and the stillness in your surroundings. This brings clarity. When your posture is deliberate, your energy becomes centered. The mind follows the body's discipline. Your breath slows down. Your attention becomes calm. Examine your thoughts. Are they useful? Are they grounded in reality? Are they aligned with your values? This inspection does not take hours. It takes effort. With practice, this becomes instinct. You recognize when your thoughts drift into resentment, distraction, or impulse. You redirect them to principle. This mental environment becomes a foundation. It is built by small, repeated actions. You begin to develop a kind of inner territory that remains undisturbed by random moods or shifting conditions. You do not wait to be calm. You prepare to be calm. You do not hope to be grounded. You train for it each morning. That training begins in silence. That silence allows truth to speak. That truth is simple. You are here. You are alive. You have agency. Use it with care. Let that thought lead the rest of your day. Chapter 2. Keep the body trained. Keep the mind clear. A disciplined mind is supported by a disciplined body. These two are not separate in Stoic practice. The body influences the state of the mind. When the body is neglected, the mind becomes more reactive. When the body is trained, the mind is better prepared to remain steady. The Stoics understood this. They treated physical training as part of moral development. It was a daily exercise in endurance, restraint, and perseverance. They did not train to impress. They trained to prepare themselves to withstand difficulty. Physical training tests resolve. It demands effort even when motivation is absent. When the body is pushed through repetition and fatigue, the mind learns to follow direction rather than mood. This teaches you to act regardless of how you feel. When training is repeated consistently, it conditions the body to accept effort without negotiation. You begin to make fewer excuses. You move when it's time to move. This transfers directly into mental discipline. The ability to follow through physically supports the ability to follow through mentally. The morning is the best time to build this strength. It sets the tone for the day. Before distraction takes hold, begin with action. Start with something that wakes the body and engages the will. Walk outside. Stretch in silence. Breathe with awareness. These movements do not need to be intense, but they must be deliberate. You are sending a message to your mind. The day begins with effort. The routine becomes a physical anchor. It creates stability before the world makes demands on your attention. Let this become a habit that does not depend on mood. Train whether you feel like it or not. Do it in silence. Do it with focus. Do it with care. This builds consistency, and that consistency becomes part of your identity. Each act of movement becomes part of your mental training. You show yourself that discipline is not situational. It is practiced. The Stoics believed in voluntary discomfort. They used it to test their character. They would deny themselves ease and train under conditions that reduced their attachment to comfort. They slept without luxury. They exposed themselves to cold. They went without food for a time. These acts were not about suffering. They were rehearsals for hardship. They understood that if comfort becomes a requirement, strength is lost. By practicing discomfort, they developed the ability to face life without panic. When you practice difficulty, you reduce your dependency on ease. You expose yourself to effort deliberately so that you do not become weakened by comfort. You show the body that it can function under strain. You teach the mind that it does not require perfect conditions to act. When difficulty becomes familiar, it loses its edge. You no longer hesitate at the first sign of discomfort. You move forward with steady action. This prepares you for real conditions. There will be days when you are tired. There will be moments when nothing feels convenient. There will be situations that frustrate, delay, or pressure you. If you only act when the situation is pleasant, your performance will always be limited. If you train to move despite resistance, your ability to function remains stable regardless of the circumstances. You become more capable of staying steady when conditions are not ideal. The body learns that it can carry you through low energy, external pressure, or inner doubt. You build a reserve of effort that is available when needed. The mind becomes used to moving forward without waiting for ideal timing. This sharpens your clarity and builds momentum. It allows you to act while others pause. You experience discomfort without collapse. You build a quiet tolerance for strain. You stop giving discomfort the power to interrupt your progress. You observe it. You adjust. You keep moving. This resilience becomes part of your system. You do not need to convince yourself to be strong. You demonstrate it through action. This reduces fear. You stop fearing tiredness. You stop fearing difficulty. You stop fearing inconvenience. You have rehearsed those conditions and found them manageable. You learn that you can survive hard conditions. You remove the illusion that ease is required. You confirm that progress does not need to feel good. You prove to yourself that consistency is possible without pleasure. This is what gives your actions depth. You do not depend on convenience. You depend on decision. That is what sharpens the mind and strengthens the will. The disciplined body supports the disciplined mind. There is a direct connection between how you move and how you think. When your actions are steady, your thoughts settle. When your breath is controlled, your reactions are measured. When your physical effort is intentional, your mindset becomes sharper. You are not split between intention and behavior. The two are aligned. This reduces internal conflict and clears the path for stronger decisions. When your movement is guided by intention, your thoughts follow that same direction. The physical act becomes a reflection of your principles. You are no longer moving for appearance or status. You are moving because discipline requires movement. You are maintaining the physical body in order to support your role as a thinking, acting, reasoning human being. The practice of training becomes a ritual. It is repeated not for entertainment, but for structure. You practice simplicity. You practice presence. You wake up the system before the world interferes. This becomes your preparation. This becomes part of your base. Each repetition is a form of self-command. Each session trains endurance. It trains focus. It trains your ability to act even when resistance appears. These are not separate from Stoic discipline. They are part of it. You are proving that your actions are rooted in principle, not in comfort. You are building a habit of showing up even when the conditions are imperfect. These lessons do not end with the physical effort. They carry into how you speak, how you wait, how you respond to pressure. The way you breathe under strain teaches you how to pause before speaking. The way you finish your movement despite discomfort builds the same habit of follow-through in difficult conversations. The endurance you develop through physical repetition shows up in your ability to remain calm in arguments, delays, and setbacks. When you train under stress, you train your ability to remain functional in difficulty. The habit of showing up physically, without delay, without excuse, translates into showing up mentally when patience is tested. You respond more slowly, more clearly, and with fewer outbursts. You feel the rising discomfort, but you are not controlled by it. You have practiced staying composed when your muscles burned, when your breath shortened, when quitting felt easier. That memory becomes a tool. You draw from it. You remind yourself that pain is temporary and that action is still possible. You have practiced the ability to move through difficulty. You are not experimenting with endurance in the middle of pressure. You are relying on something proven. That practice becomes a reference point. It tells you that discomfort does not mean failure. It tells you that hesitation is not necessary. It gives you confidence based on repetition. This reference is reliable. You return to it in conflict. You return to it in moments where others stop. It becomes a quiet form of power. You remember your ability to endure. You remember how you moved even when it was inconvenient. You remember how you stayed with the discomfort and kept your posture. These memories form part of your foundation. You don't need external support to continue. You've already shown yourself what you can carry. You act with steadiness because you have trained steadiness. You do not explain it, you live it. This is what makes the habit powerful. It builds structure. It gives shape to your energy. It reduces the chaos that often surrounds reactive thinking. You no longer need to search for motivation in difficult moments. You've already rehearsed the conditions. You've already felt the discomfort. You are not asking whether you can act. You are already acting. You do not waste time negotiating with impulse. You return to your structure. You are building evidence. Each repetition is a form of self-proof. It confirms that your discipline is not a theory. It is applied. It exists in your body. It exists in how you start your morning. It exists in how you finish what you begin. You are not hoping to be strong. You are demonstrating strength through action. This evidence builds confidence that can't be shaken by temporary discomfort. You are training clarity through movement. As the body aligns, so does the mind. As your breathing slows, so does your thinking. Movement forces focus. It strips away distraction. It gives you direct feedback. You know when you are present. You know when you are avoiding effort. Training does not lie. It reflects who you are under pressure. This reflection is a form of learning. It shapes your understanding of yourself. You are forming a mental structure supported by physical repetition. This structure is more than a routine. It is a system of personal stability. It guides how you use your time. It shapes how you manage energy. It teaches you how to approach difficulty without collapse. It provides a constant anchor in your day. That structure stabilizes your day. It gives your mind a place to stand. You do not begin your morning in confusion. You begin in motion. That motion is intentional. That intention sets the tone for every choice that follows. You are less likely to drift, less likely to waste, less likely to fold under pressure. It strengthens your posture. This is both physical and mental. Your physical posture reflects attention. Your mental posture reflects principle. Together they produce presence. That presence is steady. It does not seek approval. It does not collapse under noise. It reflects repetition. It keeps your energy grounded. You are less scattered. You are more decisive. You are less reactive. You are more deliberate. The structure you've built holds your energy in place. It allows you to aim it toward useful work. It keeps your purpose in focus. The body is trained to follow direction. The mind is trained to return to clarity. You stop relying on how you feel. You return to what you chose. This is discipline. This is structure. This is the Stoic way. Chapter 3. Keep a firm grasp on what you control. Control begins with understanding what belongs to you. Your thoughts, your judgments, your words, your actions, these are the areas where influence is possible. This is the core of Stoic training. The attention must return again and again to what can be directed through reason and effort. This is where discipline applies. This is where growth is measured. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This reminds us that much of life will happen without our permission. Events unfold. People speak without thinking. Conditions change without warning. These things do not wait for your readiness. They are part of the structure of life. You may be interrupted today while focused on something important. You may be treated unfairly. You may experience delays, rudeness, or poor judgment from others. None of these situations are within your authority. Trying to control them creates frustration. The Stoic does not waste time resisting what does not belong to them. They work with what does. You control your interpretation. You control your tone of voice. You control the pace of your breath. You control your posture. These are all entry points for stability. When you act with intention in these areas, you remove the fuel that would otherwise feed anxiety, anger, or reactivity. You interrupt the automatic patterns that create unnecessary tension. Start the morning by identifying your sphere of influence. This creates focus. The mind is given a task that is possible. It is not asked to manage outcomes or predict events. It is asked to govern what it can. When you do this, you create a system of internal order. You stop chasing what is unstable and begin building what is solid. Before stepping into the flow of activity, pause. Make a brief mental list. What do I control today? How will I respond when things shift quickly? What words will I avoid? What inner standards will I maintain? This short process prepares your decision-making. It gives you a framework for response rather than relying on emotion to choose your next move. The more clearly you define what belongs to you, the more peace you create. There is less noise in your thinking. There is less resistance to what you cannot influence. You recover quicker. You avoid unnecessary arguments. You do not get pulled into other people's chaos because you are working from a different premise. This posture of control is not passive. It is alert. It is attentive to your habits, your speech, your immediate responsibilities. It requires strength to return to this practice, especially when provoked. But each time you respond with principle rather than impulse, you become more prepared for the next challenge. This is the foundation of calm. It is built through practice, reinforced through attention, and made durable by discipline. This base becomes a steady position from which you act rather than react. It allows for measured response under pressure. This is the source of real confidence. It is grounded in preparation and awareness. You are not relying on the behavior of others to determine your stability. You are depending on your own training, your deliberate habits, and your clear values to guide your conduct. Resilience grows through repetition. Each moment of stability is a form of strength being built. Every time you resist a reaction, you add to the structure that protects your clarity. This framework is reliable. It does not require praise or attention to function. It is personal and internal. It stays active even when external conditions shift rapidly. You can move through instability while remaining composed. It is possible because you have already practiced the stance of calm. You do not need ideal conditions to apply this mindset. You need awareness of your role in shaping your response. You need the discipline to return to principle. You need the willingness to examine your choices and to correct them without delay. This is how control is practiced. It is not a single act. It is a posture that you maintain through dozens of small decisions. Carry this structure into your day. Treat it as a form of armor. When confusion enters, return to this internal order. When frustration builds, slow down and remember the limits of your control. When noise surrounds you, protect your thinking from being scattered. This is how a Stoic keeps peace active. This is how you build a strong center and act from it. This is how the mind stays aligned with what it can shape and lets go of what it cannot. Chapter 4. Set standards, not expectations. A Stoic does not begin the day by projecting how others should behave. They begin by defining their own code. This difference matters. Expectations are rooted in the actions of others. Standards are rooted in your principles. When you rely on expectations, you place your emotional state in the hands of others. You begin to anticipate how people should speak, behave, or respond. You start believing that your plans will unfold without disruption, that others will meet your standards, that outcomes will match your intentions. These assumptions create dependency. They give external events power over your mood and clarity. When people do not meet these imagined outcomes, disappointment sets in. That disappointment often leads to frustration, then to blame. You start to resent others for not fulfilling roles they never agreed to play. This kind of thinking fragments your focus. Instead of directing your energy toward your own conduct, you waste it managing reactions to unmet hopes. You begin to replay conversations, rehearse complaints, or withdraw from responsibility. Each expectation that fails becomes a weight. It pulls you into cycles of reaction instead of forward motion. A standard, by contrast, is chosen. It belongs to you. It is not shaped by the behavior of others. It is built from your values and tested through repetition. A standard is something you return to regardless of the situation. It creates structure within the mind. It gives your actions a frame of reference. When the environment changes, your standard remains. When others shift or fall short, your behavior is still guided by principle. To set a standard is to make a decision in advance. It is to decide that your patience is not conditional. It is to commit to speaking with purpose, acting with restraint, and staying steady under pressure. These are not gestures for attention. They are internal rules. They guide how you show up. They protect you from becoming reactionary. They give shape to your identity. The Stoic writes these standards down. They give them form through language. This makes them easier to remember. It also makes them easier to test. When difficulty appears, you can look at what you wrote and measure your response. Did I follow the standard? Did I live up to what I said mattered? This creates self-accountability without the need for judgment or shame. You are not seeking perfection. You are checking alignment. When your day begins, repeat your standards to yourself. Speak them with intention. Let them influence how you move through the early hours. A few phrases are enough. Say, "Today I will act with calm. Today I will remain honest. Today I will choose discipline." These are clear, actionable ideas. They set your posture before the world gives you a reason to bend it. This method clarifies your direction. It takes guesswork out of your decisions. When faced with temptation, impatience, or pressure, you do not need to invent your response in the moment. You already decided how to act. You simply follow through. This prevents emotional reasoning from taking control. It makes behavior a matter of structure, not improvisation. As your standard becomes consistent, it removes internal conflict. You stop spending energy on debating how to respond to small provocations. You do not need to ask yourself whether to speak or stay silent. You do not pause to consider if patience is deserved. The decision has already been made. You trained yourself to act according to principle. You do not rely on how you feel in the moment to determine your tone or presence. You rely on the standard you committed to. This creates mental stability. You move through situations with less hesitation and fewer regrets. Your mind is not tangled in negotiation. It is steady because it knows the path. This steady approach produces a calm confidence. It is not attached to praise. It is not weakened by criticism. It allows you to be clear without being aggressive, kind without needing acknowledgement, and firm without being rigid. You are not asking the environment to support your behavior. You are anchoring your behavior in what you trained. You act with internal consistency, regardless of the mood around you. The Stoic holds their line. They do not wait for others to be calm before becoming calm themselves. They choose the posture of discipline from the beginning. They do not drift with emotion. They return to the base they have built. When someone speaks out of anger, the Stoic does not reflect it back. When plans change suddenly, they do not collapse. They breathe, reset, and respond from their code. This ability comes from habit, not luck. It is the result of repeating standards until they become default responses. There is no need to wait for ideal conditions. The Stoic knows the day will contain friction. They do not require everything to go right in order to act right. They accept that people will fail, that plans will shift, and that tension will appear. They prepare for this in advance. They walk into the day ready to practice composure under pressure. This is the training. This is what makes Stoic discipline more than theory. It becomes a lived skill. Internal peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the strength to maintain principle in the middle of difficulty. The structure for this peace is created through consistent application of standards. These standards protect you from becoming reactive. They help you stay grounded in clear thinking. They simplify your decisions and allow you to focus on what is effective rather than what is emotional. Character is not formed by how you speak when things are calm. It is revealed when things become chaotic and you still choose to act from your values. That repetition is where strength becomes visible. You do not need to explain your principles when they are already being lived. Others will see it in your consistency. They will feel it in your steadiness. You become someone who can be relied on, not because you are perfect, but because you are practiced. Standards are tools. They do not make things easier, but they make things clearer. They remove hesitation. They give your day direction. They reduce wasted effort. They protect your attention. You conserve energy because you are not scattered by every change around you. You know what matters. You know how you intend to act. You move from that knowledge. This is how the Stoic protects peace. This is how strength becomes part of character. This is how self-command is built, sustained, and proven. Chapter 5. Train your thoughts before they train you. Your thoughts do not wait for permission. They begin the moment you wake. They pull from memory, prediction, worry, and desire. If left unchecked, they shape your direction before you make a conscious decision. A Stoic does not allow the mind to drift without examination. They begin the day by checking the quality of thought. What are you thinking as your feet touch the ground? Is your mind focused or scattered? Are you present or rehearsing problems? These early signals show what needs attention. The Stoic knows the mind must be trained the same way the body is trained, with repetition, correction, and structure. Thoughts influence speech. Speech influences action. Action becomes habit. If you begin with anxious, bitter, or reactive thinking, it will eventually show in your behavior. That is why morning reflection is critical. It is not about empty affirmations. It is about observing and shaping the internal dialogue. This practice starts with recognition. You must notice your thoughts without merging with them. Is this thought useful? Is it grounded in evidence? Does it move me toward clear action or drain me with speculation? These questions slow the process down. They give you space to respond rather than follow the thought blindly. The Stoics trained this ability by journaling, by asking themselves difficult questions, and by separating judgment from observation. A situation is not bad unless you decide it is. An event is not personal unless you attach your identity to it. By removing the layers of interpretation, you reveal the facts. That clarity is strength. You will not be able to stop thoughts from appearing. The mind produces them constantly. They rise without warning. They come from memory, habit, emotion, and external triggers. This is part of how the brain functions. The Stoic does not aim to eliminate thoughts. The focus is on training awareness. The goal is to notice what appears, examine it clearly, and redirect it when necessary. This builds control without resistance. It allows thought to be observed without being obeyed. You choose what thoughts deserve your attention. You decide what gets dismissed. This is an active responsibility. It must be practiced each day. Thoughts are inputs. They do not become decisions unless you accept them. By pausing before you react, you take control of the direction they lead you. That pause gives you time to filter what belongs in your thinking and what does not. That space between thought and action is where your training is tested. Throughout the day, your thoughts will return to their usual patterns. The mind returns to its habits. If your habit is self-pity, the mind drifts toward complaint. If your habit is discipline, the mind begins to reframe challenges as opportunities to act well. This is why repetition matters. Mental training is not a single event. It is a repeated process. It creates a mental environment that is difficult to shake even when difficulty arrives. If you do not intervene in thought, you will act from impulse. That is how people speak words they later regret, or take actions that do not reflect their values. The Stoic watches for the moment before action. They examine the source of their thoughts. They look at intention, emotion, and accuracy. They ask whether this thought is aligned with who they are training themselves to be. Use short check-ins throughout the day. Stop briefly and ask, where is my attention right now? What idea is shaping my mood? Is this thought useful or draining? Is it leading me to act wisely or to dwell on what I cannot change? These questions are simple but powerful. They create awareness. They allow redirection without harshness. They make it easier to choose action based on principle rather than pressure. The Stoic does not seek to suppress thought. They seek to work within thought deliberately. They form mental habits that serve their values. They discipline the inner dialogue by making it practical, clear, and grounded in reason. They think with direction. They train themselves to focus on what can be done rather than getting lost in speculation, anger, or fantasy. Thoughts become speech. Speech becomes behavior. Behavior becomes character. This is the chain. The earlier you interrupt it, the easier it is to change. Let your thinking reflect the kind of person you want to be. Do not expect this to happen automatically. It requires effort. It requires review. It requires a system. Your inner world is your full responsibility. No one can manage it for you. If you leave it unguarded, it will reflect whatever enters it. If you train it, it will reflect your principles. Begin that training in the morning. Continue it in every quiet moment during the day. End the night by reviewing what passed through your mind and how you responded. This cycle of attention is the core of Stoic self-governance. It begins with awareness and continues through conscious direction of thought. It is maintained by reviewing what enters the mind, how you respond to it, and whether that response reflects your chosen values. This cycle is repeated daily. It is simple in structure but powerful in effect. When consistently applied, it builds stability. This is where confidence begins. It does not arrive by accident. It is developed through discipline. Each time you act with consistency, you reinforce the idea that your behavior can be trusted. This is how self-trust is built. You no longer wait to see how you will respond in difficulty. You know because you have rehearsed the posture. You have trained your thinking. Your decisions are not random. They follow a path shaped by principle. This makes you reliable under pressure. You do not rely on ideal conditions to remain calm. You rely on your structure. You do not need constant reassurance from others. You have clear evidence that you can guide yourself. Calm develops through repetition of this structure. It is not tied to silence or comfort. It is a result of clear thinking, disciplined response, and the habit of separating fact from interpretation. You reduce unnecessary internal noise by noticing thoughts before they gain momentum. You reduce emotional exhaustion by creating space before reaction. That space becomes your advantage. It allows clarity to take root. It gives you access to choice. That choice becomes a habit. You return to your principles without conflict. This is what makes your calm steady. It does not collapse when tension rises. It remains intact because it was built deliberately. This is how the self becomes reliable. When your actions reflect your values across different situations, your character becomes stable. You speak with consistency. You make decisions that can be predicted by your code. Others feel this. They notice you do not escalate when others do. They notice you do not depend on external agreement to act with clarity. Your steadiness becomes part of your identity. This steadiness allows you to lead, influence, or support without creating confusion. Your presence becomes clear. It communicates stability without words. This is how freedom is earned. Freedom is the ability to live without being owned by impulse. It is the ability to act with full awareness of your choices. When you direct your attention inward and examine your thoughts with discipline, you begin to understand the difference between reaction and response. You separate feeling from fact. You recognize the moment between what happens and what you choose to do with it. This is where choice begins. This is where control is exercised. When you manage your inner world, you are no longer directed by the behavior of others. You respond with purpose rather than emotion. The pace of your thinking slows. You begin to filter information more clearly. Your clarity protects your energy. You conserve your resources for what actually matters. You avoid being pulled into unnecessary conflict. You recognize that your time and attention are limited, and you spend them with intention. You are guided by clarity. You are anchored in your values. You know what to ignore. You know when to speak and when to remain silent. You know when to step forward and when to stand still. This precision comes from repetition. It comes from applying your training when things are calm and continuing it when conditions shift. That stability is your strength. You become less reactive and more grounded in what you chose in advance to believe and to uphold. You are centered by your discipline. This center is built through daily habits, through reflection, silence, and review. Through asking questions like, what did I do well? What did I allow to disrupt me? What thought did I follow that weakened my posture? These questions bring attention back to what matters. They make your system stronger with each answer. This daily structure prevents drift. It holds your actions to a higher standard and keeps your behavior consistent with your values. You can adapt to new situations without losing your foundation. You do not need to retreat or resist what is unfamiliar. You adjust your methods, not your principles. You remain open to change without losing your clarity. This balance allows you to stay firm and flexible. It keeps you grounded during uncertainty. You respond with awareness instead of being controlled by your environment. You do not have to control others because you have learned to govern yourself. The behavior of others is no longer your concern. Their approval is not required. Their emotions are not yours to carry. You return to what you are responsible for, your speech, your choices, your conduct. That clarity frees you from distraction. You stop wasting energy on what cannot be directed and instead focus on what can. The boundary of your control becomes enough. You no longer try to influence what falls outside it. You build your strength within it. That strength creates freedom. You do not depend on conditions. You depend on your code. You do not look outward for permission. You act from what has been tested within. This process is not abstract. It is exact. You notice what enters your mind. You examine it against your principles. You apply what aligns and discard what does not. You correct yourself when needed. You repeat the pattern. You measure your actions against your values rather than your emotions. This is how you develop judgment. This is how you build trust in your ability to act well. This is the Stoic path to freedom. It is not a gift. It is a practice. It begins with full responsibility for what you think, how you respond, and what you prioritize. It is sustained through repetition. It becomes part of who you are. It becomes visible in how you carry yourself. This is how inner strength is formed. This is how freedom becomes a way of life. Chapter 6. Meet the day as a student. Each day presents a series of inputs. Some are useful, some are distractions. A Stoic learns to identify the difference. To approach the day as a student is to remain open to understanding. It is a mindset of discipline and curiosity, not passivity. The Stoic mind stays active, watching closely, seeking clarity in both quiet and conflict. Seneca reminded us that no person is too wise to learn. Wisdom is not a final state. It is a practice of refinement. The Stoic does not start the day with the assumption that they already have all the tools they need. They understand that errors in judgment begin when one becomes closed to instruction. Each person you meet today reflects something back to you. They may reveal patience, or they may reveal a lack of it. They may teach through example or through error. Either way, there is material for learning. The student carries humility. They do not rush to judge. They observe before reacting. They examine before deciding. This allows space for correction and insight. It sharpens perception. When difficulty arises, The Stoic does not panic. They study the moment. They ask practical questions. What is being tested here? What skill am I being asked to apply? What part of my thinking is being challenged? To live this way, you must become familiar with discomfort. Lessons often come through tension. A disagreement, a delay, or a mistake. These are not interruptions. They are part of the daily curriculum. When they arrive, the Stoic does not complain. They adjust their stance and continue learning. Carrying a small notebook is a useful habit. Write down moments that stand out. Record errors in thought, changes in emotion, or small victories in restraint. These notes build awareness. They allow you to track your development. They help you recognize recurring patterns that may otherwise go unseen. When you feel anger rising, write it down. When you feel confused, ask yourself why. Use the moment to investigate, not escape. These habits keep the mind steady. They build self-command. The Stoic uses each experience as material to work with, not material to avoid. The classroom is everywhere. It is in your schedule, your conversations, your environment. Repetition is part of the structure. You will face similar difficulties again and again. The Stoic understands that progress is made through this repetition. Effort compounds. Reflection compounds. Awareness compounds. The student does not search for approval. They do not need to be seen as right. They focus on being accurate. They prioritize alignment with principle over being recognized for their growth. The direction is inward, not performative. They move through the day anchored in their effort to improve. To meet the day as a student is to walk with alertness. It is to train yourself to listen carefully, act thoughtfully, and accept correction without defensiveness. It is to stay flexible without becoming unstable. It is to remain teachable without giving up the responsibility of judgment. This is how wisdom is earned. This is how the mind remains clear. This is how you keep learning in the face of pressure, discomfort, and noise. Chapter 7. Speak little, mean fully. Speech reveals your discipline. It shows what you value and what you ignore. The Stoics approach speech with purpose. They did not waste words. They did not speak to impress or to dominate. They spoke to clarify, to support, to resolve. Their words served function, not attention. The person who speaks less is not silent out of fear. They are silent by choice. They allow space for thought to form. They do not interrupt. They do not fill silence with noise. They study the conversation before they enter it. This habit preserves energy. It prevents confusion. It allows for sharper observation. Speech should be deliberate. Each sentence should serve a clear purpose. When you speak without aim, you lose the strength of your words. The Stoic understands that every word spoken is an action. Every phrase shapes a result. When used carelessly, words destroy clarity. When used with precision, they cut through emotion and guide the moment forward. Practice speaking with restraint. Control your pace, remove filler, eliminate exaggeration, refuse to match the urgency of others. Speak with calm, even under stress. Speak when your words can help resolve, clarify, or guide. Speak slowly. Let each word carry only the weight it should. This requires discipline. It also requires intention. The less you speak, the more you must think before you do. That thinking becomes part of your posture. Allow each word to reflect your inner order. Let it show that you are aware of your principles. Let it show that you do not speak to be heard. You speak to be useful. The purpose is not silence. The purpose is precision. The fewer words you use, the more each word matters. This sharpens both speaker and listener. It gives your communication structure. This practice takes effort. It is easier to talk without planning. It is easier to fill silence than to endure it. But that silence holds power. It makes room for reason. It prevents your speech from becoming reaction. That pause before speaking is not weakness. It is a test. It gives you time to check your thoughts before letting them shape the moment. It reduces regret. It creates space for calm to lead. The disciplined voice is calm, measured, and firm. It does not rely on volume. It does not mimic agitation. It does not drift to please. It stays close to reason. It moves with clarity. It says what is necessary and no more. This voice is trained. It is practiced in quiet places. It reflects the work done in solitude. It draws strength from restraint. When others speak emotionally, it remains steady. When others interrupt, it waits. When others argue, it simplifies. This voice holds its line. It respects silence. It avoids turning every disagreement into a confrontation. It does not speak to win. It speaks to contribute. It protects the mind from being pulled into conflicts that waste energy. It keeps the conversation anchored in value rather than emotion. You do not need to speak about everything. You are not required to share every opinion, explain every move, or respond to every question. Speaking less is not absence of thought. It is the result of choosing what deserves expression. When you reduce unnecessary speech, you reduce confusion. You preserve your energy. You reduce the chance of being misunderstood. You speak from principle, not from compulsion. You do not need to comment on every detail. Not every moment needs your voice. Some conversations need patience. Some moments benefit from stillness. The urge to speak often comes from discomfort with silence, but silence can be purposeful. It can give others room to think. It can give you time to observe. The disciplined mind does not rush to fill the quiet. It waits until speech is required. You do not need to explain every choice. Your life does not need constant justification. If your actions are rooted in principle, they speak clearly. The more often you act from clarity, the less explanation you require. People will begin to understand your direction through repetition. Let your example carry the message. Let your consistency show that your behavior is intentional, not reactive. Clarity is often stronger when it is quiet. Short answers carry weight when they follow thoughtful silence. Pauses sharpen words. Restraint gives language precision. When you allow space between thoughts and speech, your voice gains structure. This removes the need for correction. It reduces regret. It allows you to speak from stability. Let your actions speak without needing a caption. If you act with discipline, your habits will carry more weight than your statements. Let others observe your consistency. Let them witness how you respond to pressure, to challenge, to praise. These responses will say more than any explanation. Let your posture confirm your standards. Stand with intention. Sit with awareness. Your posture is a form of communication. It reflects attention. It reflects restraint. It reflects confidence that is not loud, but visible. People notice how you carry yourself. They notice whether you are still or agitated, open or defensive, calm or impatient. Let your body be a quiet signal of your code. Let your tone match the content of your thinking. Speak with clarity. Speak with purpose. If your thoughts are calm, let your voice reflect that. If your ideas are measured, let your words follow that pace. Avoid tones that invite chaos. Avoid tones that chase approval. Speak as someone who has already decided what they value. When others question you, answer with calm. Do not rush to justify. Do not match their urgency. Give the answer that is useful, then stop. If more is needed, add it carefully. Do not over-explain. Do not fill silence with defense. Let the clarity of your direction stand on its own. When others demand an explanation, give only what is useful. Stay anchored in your values. Stay grounded in your reasoning. If your decision came from principle, say so. If it came from discipline, state it clearly. Then return to your task. Avoid turning your response into a debate. Do not defend every decision. Some actions are understood with time. Some are understood through repetition. You do not need to turn every disagreement into a conversation. Some people are not ready to hear what you mean. Some are only prepared to argue. Your energy is better spent on conduct than defense. You are not obligated to argue with every opinion. Most opinions are noise. Many people speak without reflection. Their questions are not sincere. Their disagreements are rehearsed. You can conserve energy by choosing where to engage. If it will not lead to clarity or resolution, let it pass. Some conversations do not require your entry. You do not need to enter every room where your name is mentioned. You do not need to respond to every comment. The desire to reply often creates more noise. Choose the conversations that reflect your principles. Leave the rest. Some situations only ask for your example. You do not need to say you are disciplined if your actions already show it. You do not need to announce your values if your habits reflect them. Let your presence explain your direction. Let your silence carry meaning. The Stoic uses language as a tool of service. The purpose is to reduce confusion and build clarity. The purpose is to resolve, instruct, or support. When words move away from this purpose, they begin to waste energy. Sharpen your use of language by reducing what is unnecessary. The tool is only effective when sharpened. Sharpen it through reflection. After speaking, review your words. Ask whether they were helpful. Ask whether they were excessive. Ask whether they brought clarity or created confusion. This reflection builds precision. That sharpening comes through review. Every conversation becomes a lesson. Every exchange is a chance to test your discipline. Did I speak too quickly? Did I interrupt? Did I speak just to fill space? Or did I speak to serve the moment? These questions help you adjust. You review what you've said. You look for excess. You look for emotion that entered your tone. You study where you drifted and where you held your line. You do not blame yourself for flaws. You learn from them. You let that learning shape your future speech. You examine the tone. You look for urgency, sarcasm, self-importance, or defensiveness. You study whether your tone aligned with your principle. You measure your posture against your intent. This gives your voice structure. It improves your ability to speak with command. You ask whether it was necessary. Did your words serve the moment, or did they extend it? Did they build understanding, or did they satisfy impulse? This evaluation turns speech into a skill. It transforms talking into deliberate action. You ask whether it brought clarity or simply filled time. Many conversations are long without being clear. Many words are spoken without direction. When you value clarity, your speech becomes lean. Each word must carry weight. Each phrase must serve function. This review strengthens your speech. It filters weakness. It reinforces the connection between mind and language. It reminds you that discipline does not stop at thought. It must extend into speech. It makes future words cleaner and more deliberate. You speak less, but you say more. You build a reputation for clarity. People listen more closely when they know you only speak when it matters. Chapter 8. Stay silent. When silence serves. You do not need to speak about everything. You do not need to comment on every detail. You do not need to explain every choice. Clarity is often stronger when it is quiet. Let your actions speak without needing a caption. Let your posture confirm your standards. Let your tone match the content of your thinking. When others question you, answer with calm. Do not match their tone. Speak with control. Your response is an opportunity to demonstrate clarity. It is a chance to show that you think before reacting. If your answer is rooted in principle, it does not require urgency. You do not need to speak quickly. You do not need to speak often. You only need to speak clearly and without attachment to being understood perfectly. Some will not understand. That is outside your control. When others demand an explanation, give only what is useful. Speak with the intention to inform, not to persuade. Give the facts, give the reasoning. Then stop. Do not speak to defend your identity. Do not expand beyond what serves the moment. Let the rest be handled by your behavior. If someone requires more, let them observe your consistency. If your decisions are steady, explanation becomes less necessary over time. Do not defend every decision. Every decision carries a cost. Some will question your methods. Others will question your priorities. You do not need to engage in constant justification. Reserve your energy for action. When your actions are based on values, they do not need repeated verbal reinforcement. Let your results speak across time. Let your pattern of action show your intention. You are not obligated to argue with every opinion. Most opinions are temporary. Many are emotional. Some are formed without full information. Responding to all of them drains focus. Choose your moments carefully. Let your silence serve as a filter. If an opinion has no bearing on your principles or your duties, allow it to pass. You are not required to enter every discussion where your name appears. Some conversations do not require your entry. They may not be grounded in truth. They may be based on assumption. They may exist only to provoke. The Stoic avoids unnecessary engagement. If no value can be added through speech, remain quiet. If no progress can be made through dialogue, walk away. If your presence alone communicates your position, allow it to speak. Some situations only ask for your example. A decision made with care will carry its own strength. A calm response will say more than 1,000 explanations. You do not need to interrupt every misunderstanding. You do not need to challenge every comment. You need only to act in a way that honors your code. Let others draw their own conclusions. The Stoic uses language as a tool of service. It serves understanding. It serves peace. It serves alignment with principle. Each word should be measured. Each sentence should be shaped by discipline. The fewer the words, the greater their effect. The fewer the emotions carried in speech, the more likely the message will be understood clearly. The tool is only effective when sharpened. Use reflection as your method. After speaking, assess the outcome. Was the message clear? Did it leave space for misunderstanding? Did it serve the moment? If it added confusion, reduce the amount next time. If it created clarity, repeat that structure. That sharpening comes through quiet review. Ask yourself questions without judgment. Did I say more than was required? Did I speak out of emotion or out of intention? Was my tone steady? Did my words match my posture? This review makes your speech leaner, cleaner, and stronger. You review what you've said to reinforce awareness. Each reflection improves your next conversation. It builds a habit of pause. It encourages thoughtful engagement. You speak less, but each word becomes more aligned. Each sentence becomes an extension of your values. You examine the tone. You check for tension, urgency, or sarcasm. You look for drift, where your speech moved from clarity into defense. You study the distance between your message and your delivery. The goal is consistency, not perfection. This gives you internal confidence that you can handle conflict without escalation. You ask whether it was necessary. If the words did not add value, remove them from future use. If they created noise, simplify. If they distracted rather than clarified, revise. This is how speech becomes a skill. It is trained, tested, refined, and then repeated. You ask whether it brought clarity or simply filled time. Many people speak to avoid silence. They speak to be seen. But Stoic speech is functional. It respects time, attention, and energy. It avoids what cannot be acted on. It focuses on what can be understood. This review strengthens your speech. It removes what is weak. It highlights what is strong. It builds a pattern that others begin to trust. They know when you speak, it will be clear, it will be brief, it will be considered. It makes future words cleaner and more deliberate. You do not stumble into explanation. You do not follow impulse. You act. Then you speak, if needed. The words match the action. They follow intention. They carry strength because they come from a practiced mind. Say less and say only what is necessary. Make each word carry weight. Let silence carry the rest. Let your actions carry the meaning. Let your presence carry the strength. This is how the Stoic protects their peace. This is how the Stoic preserves their energy. This is how the Stoic leads through clarity. Chapter 9. Mastery over distraction. Distraction weakens clarity. It divides thought, scatters energy, and delays progress. The Stoic trains to notice distraction early. They see how quickly the mind can drift without direction. They prepare for this in advance. They do not depend on focus arriving by itself. They build focus by protecting what deserves attention. Each day brings noise, messages, interruptions, images, news, opinions. These compete for space in your mind. If you do not filter them, they will consume your energy before you've made a single deliberate decision. The Stoic mind creates a boundary. It asks what is useful. It asks what aligns with principle. It discards the rest. The first way to guard your focus is to limit inputs. If you begin the day by consuming content, your mind starts in reaction. It begins to respond before it has chosen its direction. Protect your early hours. Protect your time blocks. Create separation between attention and distraction. The second method is to work in still intervals. Choose one task. Finish it. Do it without toggling between windows, thoughts, or conversations. This practice of unit focus is a form of strength. It builds resistance to interruption. It increases clarity. It simplifies the mind's path. The third habit is review. At the end of the day, ask, where did I lose focus? What was worth my time? What scattered my attention? This review is essential. It shows you what needs adjustment. It builds self-awareness. It prepares you to defend your clarity again tomorrow. The Stoic does not attempt to escape the presence of distraction. They train to remain clear within it. They reduce what weakens their attention. They strengthen what sharpens their perception. This is not just a matter of productivity. It is a matter of character. Attention is your life. Where it goes, your time follows. To master distraction is to master the ability to remain present. It is to choose what matters and return to it again and again. This is how focus becomes discipline. This is how the mind becomes precise. This is how you hold your position in a world that constantly pulls. Chapter 10. End the day with reason. As the day closes, the Stoic returns to stillness. The evening is not just rest. It is a final act of discipline. It is time to reflect, assess, and reset. Without this review, the day passes without shape. With it, each day becomes part of a larger structure. The mind becomes sharper. The path becomes clearer. Reflection is direct. Ask yourself what went well. Ask where you lost your posture. Ask what you allowed that weakened your focus. Do not justify. Do not judge. Observe. You are gathering information. You are studying your own conduct. This process creates correction. It strengthens awareness. Write down what mattered. What did you handle with discipline? What did you avoid that required courage? What moment required more patience than you had? This writing is not performance. It is refinement. The Stoic builds through repetition. They examine results and train the mind to see clearly. The evening is also a time to reset judgment. Let go of what is finished. Let go of mistakes. Let go of praise. The day is done. Carry forward only what is useful. Rest is not escape, it is preparation. A rested mind is a sharper one. Let the body recover. Let the mind return to stillness. Before sleep, remind yourself of what matters. Remind yourself of your principles. Prepare for the next day with structure. Choose your first task. Decide your first action. The next day begins with your last thought tonight. This closing ritual is simple but powerful. It builds order. It builds memory. It builds identity. The Stoic who ends the day with reason rises the next with purpose.